All right, guys, what is up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And towards the latter half, or actually towards the end of my last stream, one of the viewers asked me to make a video talking about what we were talking about on stream, actually, but just to condense it down because it's very easy for me to go off on a tangent when it comes to this subject, as well as the fact that I mean, it's just really unreasonable to make a video that would last an hour long or 30 minutes long, unless it was kind of like a retrospective video and stuff like that. But this channel isn't that kind of channel, even though I've kind of done stuff like that. This channel really isn't that. It's about, it's a commentary channel that should go anywhere from like 10 minutes to 20 at the very most or so, unless it's like a very specific type of video. But we're going to be talking about XDefiant competitive today. We're going to be talking about ranked because it was kind of influenced by something that I saw from a Crimsic stream that somebody, I guess, clipped and put it on YouTube. It was about 4 minutes long or so, give or take. But ultimately, it's about competitive ranked for XDefiant. And Crimsic's basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, he basically suggested that we kind of go back to the old Halo 2 days. Now, during the days of Halo 2, there was a rank system that was basically a 1 through 50 rank system. Now, hardly anybody made 50 in Halo 2, hardly. At least not legitimately. A few of the pros did, but a lot of other people that made ranked 50 actually did it by cheating, by using standby, pretty much, which if you were around during the Halo 2 times when that came out on Xbox Live in 2004, along with Xbox Live, actually, basically, people that wanted to make level 50 would basically kind of use standby and kind of mess with the connection or stuff like that in order for them to make it there. So basically what that ranking system was like, let's say for levels 1 through 10, you had to get like 2 or 3 consecutive wins in a row in order to make to the next level. And then from like, let's say 10 to 15, you had to get like 5 consecutive wins in a row. And then from 15 to 20, you had to get like 10 consecutive wins in a row, and so on and so forth, right? It was something along those lines. That was basically the formula, as far as I understand, and I've watched a few videos on it. So, and if you won, you would progress, and if you lost, you would lose progression. And individual stats actually did not matter, to my knowledge. It was basically a formula of you're either going to win or you're going to lose, because wins and losses are the only thing that matter when it comes to a true competitive gaming environment, even in sports. Individual stats are great and everything, and even though those make the player look better and things like that, ultimately at the end of the day, I think if you were to ask any professional athlete out there which they prefer, would you rather have good stats or would you rather win the championship? Of course they would rather win the championship. That's what you play for. You play to win the game. And the same thing goes true for competitive gaming. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, I also wanted to mention that since Activision bought Microsoft Blizzard, well, since they're acquiring Activision Blizzard, that means they would own MLG as well. And pros have nothing but good things to say about MLG in comparison to what's going on today. So I just thought I'd kind of mention that, so to speak. So you never know, we might even see a resurgence of MLG. Anyway, but let's go back to what we were talking about here. So in Halo 3, they ended up having the same system, except it was a little bit more lenient. There was more wiggle room, so therefore it was more possible for people to make level 50. But despite all of this, the fact that it was very difficult for even pros to make the max level was something that was truly special. It was truly great because, I mean, you would obviously truly earn your place, right? You would truly earn that rank. And you also had to have a team. You had to have communication skills up to par. Oh, and one other thing, there were multiple levels depending on the game mode. So in other words, what I mean is, like, if you played team deathmatch, you would have, you would be a certain level in team deathmatch depending on how you perform whenever you play team deathmatch. If there was Slayer in Halo, right, aka team deathmatch and everything else, and then if you were to play capture the flag or oddball or something like that, again, it would be very specific towards that specific game mode. So you would know, depending on whatever level you were, depending on that game mode, what your weakness was, right? I mean, you could get a higher ranking in capture the flag, but a lower ranking in TDM, or vice versa, right? So this would kind of let you know, like, in terms of where you stand when it comes to this. And if you actually made it into the 40s or mid 40s or whatnot, which a few people did legitimately that were not pros, right, that were dedicated to the game, they would actually get matched up with a few pro players. And I actually watched and listened, well, I actually listened because I listened to this while playing pool. I listened to a specific player that made a video years ago talking about this, and the experience was the fact that his team went up against a team of pros and they got beaten badly. They didn't even reach 25 out of the 50 kills. They reached like 18 or 19 against the pros. And he's like, man, the pros are crazy. And it's like, absolutely, they're crazy. It's their life. In order to become that good and to be on that level, it's very simple. You have to dedicate your life to it. I know this from a former career of mine. And I'll say it again. And I've said this many times before. The only reason why I got good was because I trained 4 times as hard as everybody else, 4 times as often. I literally made it my life, even outside of the classroom as well. So this is what caused me to become better. This was what gave me an edge from other people when it came to sparring and things like that. So just to name a few other things, as well as the plethora of knowledge that I would gain through my experiences, as well as just having the time to literally pick instructors' brains, right? Instructors and everybody else, masters and stuff like that. I would ask them questions. I would pick their brains, and I would get answers, and then I would apply those answers in practice, and I would just keep going relentlessly. I was really driven. I was really focused, and that's the kind of mindset that you really need to have when it comes to a true competitive gaming environment. And this is also why it is very hard for new professional players to come out of the woodworks, because there are people out there that do want to compete, but when you have to work a full-time job, and dare I say it, even overtime, I mean, there's only so much time in a day, and it is, I don't want to say it's impossible, because nothing's impossible, right? But ultimately, it's that much harder when you don't have that much time to dedicate to the game itself. And when the highest level of competition does, they have an advantage over you, to the point to where it almost seems like a cheat, so to speak, but it's not. I mean, that kind of time that you spend into playing game, I guarantee you, if I were to spend 3 to 4 hours a day playing, which is really good dedication, but yet I'm working, 40 plus hours a week, it's a lot of dedication, right? And I will get to a certain level, right? That will propel me above a certain level of players. But when it comes to like the top level players, like the pro players out there, or the ones that are competing regularly and that are spending, like, let's say 8 hours minimum a day playing the game and doing strats and strategizing and stuff like that, and learning, like, dissecting the game on a whole other level, let me tell you, man, even someone like me who is dedicated to playing 4 hours a day, in comparison to their 8 hours and God knows what else that they do, I shouldn't stand a chance. I mean, I'll stand out compared to your average competition, no doubt about it, but like, I shouldn't stand a chance. I shouldn't, cause too much of a dent, really, because my level of dedication compared to their level of dedication just doesn't. It's just not gonna cut it, man. And talent itself is only gonna get you far. It might give you a head start, or it might give you a little bit of a boost, but it's not going to get you to the promised land. Talent alone is not going to get you to the promised land. It is a very big illusion that people think that talent can get them to that promised land, but it's not. There's many different aspects there. You have to maximize your talent, and the way you maximize your talent is by having that level of dedication. And if it's a team thing, then you have to develop that as well, and everything that comes with it, like communication, which is like the one of the big quintessentials when it comes to competitive gaming, for instance. So ultimately, what we have today with like, let's say Halo Infinite, for instance, right, and Halo 5, and I'm going to name those two specifically because I'm more familiar with them, so I'm not as familiar with some of the other competitive games out there. So ultimately, the way it works in Halo Infinite is that you've got your bronze level, your silver, gold, platinum, then diamond, then onyx, right? And you've got 6 tiers per. But once you make it to onyx, it's all number based, and then you just try to get to the lower number, because the lower number you have, the higher up the ladder you are, so to speak, right? And basically, the biggest factor is whether you win or lose. However, the way you perform also plays a factor. So let's say you are the best player on your team. You're getting the most points. You're doing the most objectives, getting the most kills, getting the most consistency, accuracy, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a formula that they put in there that obviously they don't want the players to know about. But one thing is obvious, is that all this stuff, all this secondary stuff really does matter, like in terms of your individual performance. And the way it matters is, even though you'll still lose progress in terms of gaining rank. but you won't lose as much progress because you performed very well. So what the game will do is, instead of making you go like, let's say, -12 or -14 progression points, they'll give you like a -6, to where you're only going to get half as penalized because your performance was so good, right? But back during the Halo days of Halo 2, the game didn't give two fucks. It really didn't. You were going to get penalized like everybody else, because despite the fact that you played well and it was great and all, that's cool, but you're going to get penalized like everybody else on your team. Like, if your entire team is going to lose 12 points, you're going to lose 12 points. That's the way it works. It's even Steven, because all that matters is whether you win or whether you lose. And I think that's one of the things that the Black Ops 2 League play formula did so well, is that I remember vaguely, and I'm paraphrasing here, somebody asked Vaughn on whether on KD, whether your KD would matter in terms of ranking up in progression, in terms of competitive in league play, and I'm paraphrasing, he said no, but I'm glad you asked that, because the only thing that really matters is wins and losses. That's it. So yeah, you have to win, and you have to win consistently, and that's basically the way it works in any competitive environment under any type of category that you can think of, whether it's in sports, whether it's in video games, whatever it is. True competition, a true competitive environment, is about wins and losses. Now, if we were talking free for all, then perhaps there is room in terms of that. Or if anything, you know what? Instead of individual stats, you can just have it to where it's about placement, right? Like, first place obviously wins and they get the most amount of progression, and then second place gets, a certain amount of progression, and then third place maybe gets a certain amount of progression, then everybody else just loses progression, right? So it really would depend on your placing. So if you're consistently getting like third place, for instance, you're going to get like a +2 instead of a +4 or a +6, right? And so on and so forth. And if you make, fourth, fifth, sixth place, for instance, in a 6-man free-for-all, then you would get nothing. So you would have to literally be in the top 3 to make progression. So that makes sense as far as ranked is concerned. I can see that happening for free-for-all. But when it comes to a team environment, it really just, the only thing that should matter whether it's wins or losses. Well, at least as far as I understand, and that's what they did back there during the Halo 2 days. That's what it was. And in Halo 3, again, they would have a little bit more wiggle room. I don't know exactly what they did. Maybe they implemented a little bit of your individual skill into the formula or whatnot in order to try to improve it. But again, the Halo 2 formula was very legendary because of the fact that it was just about wins and losses. And it's really simple, but at the same time, it is strict, it is fair, and it is a team-based environment. Like, the thing is, ultimately, if you're consistently performing well, and you're still losing, that means that your teammates are the problem, and there's something that needs to be done as far as your teammates go. Like, in terms of, it could be anything. It could be a matter of them working on their shot. Maybe their positioning is not right. Maybe their communication skills are not up to par. Things like that. And a formula of that nature not only gives you that information, but also like tells you like, hey, this is what you need to work on. This is what's important, right? This is what matters. So you get to work on your weak links. If you're not the weak link, then one of your teammates are, whatnot, and it forces you to be a better teammate by helping your teammates out in terms of what they need to accomplish. This is even what happened in professional sports as well. Kobe Bryant did this with his teammates when he was with the Lakers. Michael Jordan did it with his teammates when he was with the Bulls. So, you can only rely so much on the team, so on yourself. You could be an amazing person that does absolutely amazing things, there's no doubt about it, but you're you're only limited to what you could do, especially when it comes to a team-based sports. I mean, you could do so much more as a team. You could be so much more effective as a team than any individual player. And in the Navy SEAL mentality, so to speak, which I respect so much, the one thing you do not want to be known as is an individual. You want to be known as a team player, not an individual. One of the worst things anybody can call you in the SEAL community is an individual. You do not want to be called that. You do not want to be labeled that. And the same thing goes for even in competitive gaming. If anybody is spotted like trying to, like, quote unquote, just get better stats and not go for the win, they're going to get kicked off the team if they keep that up for much longer, or just get kicked off the team right away, because every pro player out there knows that it's all about the win. Whether you're scrimming or whether you're actually playing in a tournament, whatever it is, all that matters is your win-loss, whether you win or whether you lose. So because you're also playing for cash and you're also playing for the championship and the pride. So forget individual stats. Even Karma, after they won in Infinite Warfare with Scump and Formal and Crimsix, when they won that championship, Karma had a Modern Warfare stream where he was just kind of sprinting around the map and he was talking to his stream. And he basically said something along the lines of like, he doesn't care if you shoot straight. So in other words, he's more about like you being in the right place at the right time. And if you are in the right place at the right time, then you shooting straight in a game where the time to kill is that fast, it really doesn't, it's a secondary matter compared to like communication and all the other factors that come into play. So that is what he was alluding to. And then he actually got this little diary out that showed them in a very simple schematic or drawing or whatnot of, we need to do this, like you need to be here, you need to be here, you need to do that. If we don't do this, we're not going to win. And that was basically the story of that. So so again, it goes to show you that there's all these other factors that come into play. And again, what was that for? It was to get the win. It wasn't about anything else. It was about getting the win. So it really is a lot more in depth than a lot of people that don't know about this stuff think. So but with that being said, though, I am starting to get to time on this video. So what do you guys think that the XDefiant rank system should do? Do you think it should be something along the lines of what Halo 2 did? Or do you think it should be somewhere along the lines to where your individual stats do play a role to some degree? I understand the validity of both sides. I certainly do, because I do believe that good players should be rewarded, but at the same time, how they should be rewarded is the big question, right? Because again, the biggest thing and the only thing that matters is whether you win the match or lose the match. You know, who cares about stats when it comes to that? So and everybody on the team should be kind of treated and rewarded, and not rewarded equally, so to speak. So I mean, if you know, is a person that's going to get second place that played the best on the opposite team that lost the match, is that person going to get a piece of the winnings if even though the other team won? Of course not. So therefore, you know, the same kind of mentality I think should at least be applied to the ranking system on whether you progress or whether you don't progress, and how you get penalized and how you don't get penalized. So those are my thoughts on the matter, and I really want to know in terms of like what you guys think is the best progression system in any game out there throughout gaming history. I mean, it could be about CSGO, I don't care, it could be anything. What is your opinion? What is the best ranked progression system that you guys think is out there, and what do you think should work really well with XDefiant? I really would like to know. I'm legitimately curious. I'm always learning about this stuff, despite the fact that I've watched and I've also played a lot of Halo Infinite ranked, and I played a lot of Halo 5 ranked as well. But again, because I mostly don't focus on ranked, especially on a game like this that has my interest in pubs more than anything, I want to know what your perspective is on ranked and what you think would work best for XDefiant in your humble opinion. So with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen to this. I can't wait to hear your feedback in the comments section down below. Thank you all so very much for the amazing support that you guys have been giving me lately, as well as the comments in the comment section as well. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.